I'd like to welcome Christina Wren to Sidewalks Entertainment. Hi,
Hi.
Christina. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you.
So, actor, producer, writer, and you have so many more titles. And I feel like these titles are kind of an understatement with all of the work that you do. I honestly have so many questions for you, but we'll go ahead and start with your success story.
Oh my
So,
God. You're making me blush. I don't know. Yeah.
how did you start your career as an actor?
Well, I started, I went to school for acting. I went to NYU and was a theater major. And then I started doing background work. I had taken a semester of film and TV, but it is a different experience, And so I started as a background actor and I also worked behind the camera a bit. I produced a documentary and then I wrote and produced an indie feature that we made for like no money with a bunch of friends in a 5D. And so it's been just building organically off of that, very much like always trying to learn, always trying to grow. I love it, so it's easy to kind of be hungry for more and for community. My first like break, was that Zack Snyder saw me in a hummus commercial. That's my little hilarious story. But that was where, it really kind of professionally started to take off a little bit. I will be forever indebted to Zach and Debbie Snyder for, plucking me out. And then it's just kind of been continuing to grow and hustle and whatever, grind.
So, like, as a filmmaker and an actor or whatnot, do you ever revisit some of your earlier work just to see like the growth that you've had? Do you ever revisit it, or you kind of shy away from that?
It's funny, not often, like we're so strapped for time, like, you're always kind of like on to the next.
Mhm.
But every now and then I will peek back at, at some of our like early videos on YouTube or our early films. And it makes me so nostalgic. It's actually kind of sweet because I see it with fresh eyes. It's been long enough that, when you're editing something and you're in it and you like almost can't see it clearly anymore. You're so deep in the weeds, So there is something sweet about backing up and seeing it more from a bird's eye view and seeing the growth, and also thankfully usually being like, oh, I still kind of stand by that. I can see where I was and where the growth needed to happen and such, but also just like, yeah, it makes me feel nostalgic, which is sweet. Mhm.
So we've also seen you in DC superhero films like Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Mhm.
How did you become a part of these films, and what was your experience like working on these projects?
I mean, my experience was amazing. The whole creative team are just the most delightful humans and were just so awesome to work with. And I was a huge Superman fan growing up. I grew up, just like my mom would safety pin towels to our shirts and we'd run around the yard. And so when I realized that was the thing that I had booked, I didn't know what I was auditioning for. And so that was huge. Like it was just so incredible to be a part of that. And the way it came to be was that the director Zack Snyder saw me in a hummus commercial and said, like, find that girl. So it was so dreamy and like unbelievable. I thought someone was pranking me. I got an email from a like kind of generic casting at Warner Brothers email address that just said, a Hollywood director has seen you in a hummus commercial and would like you to audition for this untitled Warner Brothers project. And I just thought, like, no way. Like, this is not real. Someone is punking me. And thankfully, my family was in the car with me at the time I got it. We were going to a wedding and they were like, you have to do this. Like, in the off chance it's real, you have to submit for this, So thankfully I did. But I didn't know what it was until the casting director called me and she was explaining like, okay, they sent you to the producers, but we want you. Are you available these dates? And she's just kind of like rattling through contract information and such. And I said, am I allowed to know what it is?
Yeah.
And And she goes, yeah, but you can't tell anybody. It's the new Superman. And I had to just like fight to not cry on the phone and act cool. I was like, oh, okay, great, but I just was so excited. Yeah. So it's very cool. Mhm.
I bet you never look at hummus the same way ever again.
Oh, and I'm a Lebanese girl. So, like hummus is a part of my DNA. So it
No,
feels very,
but like that was like
yeah.
the start of like all that is
I
amazing.
owe it all to chickpeas, man.
I
I owe it
know,
all to chickpeas.
that is so crazy.
I know,
Oh
it's
my
wild.
gosh.
I know. Yeah.
So like what was it like? So when you look back on working on those films,
Mhm.
what do you remember the most? Like what if you think about just memories in general from those working on those projects, what stands out to you?
Mhm. There's a handful of them. They mostly revolve around experiences with people, just like getting to build relationships on set. And like one of the first ones was just the day I arrived in Vancouver. I just get off the plane and they're like, oh, let's take you to set and introduce you. And so I had met Zach and Debbie briefly when they, had me sign a contract in New York. They were in town for like 12 hours and very sweetly, invited me to meet with them and stuff. But all of a sudden I'm just on this huge set and it's, there's Amy Adams and there's Superman and there's like, all these, big cameras everywhere and extras and or background actors. It just felt really magical. It was kind of like a pinch me moment. Like, how is anyone excited that I'm here right now? Like what, like the fact that I'm being toured around is nuts. So that was very gracious. Like everyone was just so gracious to me on that project. And, just getting to watch like someone like Amy Adams at work, getting to watch, Richard Schiff and Chris Maloney and Harry Lennox. And like Harry became a real buddy of mine, which was wonderful and lovely. And he remains a friend. So I think those relationships were just really stand out for me. But yeah, like hanging out in the desert, the explosives guys like blowing up, fake satellites. Like it's
I
just
was
stuff
going to
like
ask
that.
about that
Yeah,
too.
yeah, it's just cool. You're like, this is like your childhood fantasies just to 1,000. So it was neat. It was really neat. Mhm.
Yes, I love hummus too. I can't believe it started with the hummus
I
commercial.
know.
And then all of a sudden you're on set with Amy Adams. Like, oh my God, that is such a great story.
It's
I,
super
I think
nice.
I'm
Yeah.
never going to look at hummus the same way again. That
No,
is so,
no,
but I
absolutely
love
not.
it.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. How cool is that? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It was really fun. Yeah.
So, apart from acting, you're the VP of Women of Color Filmmakers, or WOCF, and you
Yeah.
co-founded the annual WOCF Lab. Tell
Mhm.
me about WOCF and the WOCF Lab.
WCF is a really lovely organization that, yeah, is just near and dear to my heart. I found it right after I'd had my first kid, and it was a really nurturing place for me when I was coming out of the cave of all of that. And I needed a safe place where I could, talk about the challenges and the hurdles and the things I was working through without feeling like it was going to get held against me. And that was just a really beautiful thing to continue to learn and grow and build community. So it means the world to me to be able to now support that community and its growth. And our film lab, I love it so much. It's essentially like a crash course film school. It's a 6-month program that we take a handful of writers through developing an original concept and really, honing in on their voice and how to make it unique and distinct. And then we do workshops with Pilar Alessandra and Londi and I teach workshops on all of the development of that. So we get their scripts like really effing tight. And then we bring in a ton of Hollywood professionals to talk about pre-production, about cinematography, about visual storytelling, how to make a deck, how to direct actors, how to work with a composer and do your score. And then we match up each filmmaker with a Hollywood mentor and they get 2 meetings with them, one during pre-production and one during post. And we try to match make based on like, okay, this person has a lot of effects in their film and this director has done a lot, you know, with effects, or this person needs cool camera tricks, so let's link them up with Larry Fong, or let's, you know, like, how do we match them up well? And we've had amazing people volunteer to be our mentors. It's been quite magical. And then we guide them through the delivery of a final short film, and we do a big screening, and it's really lovely and so cool to see what they've done. And then we launched a 201 program last year for filmmakers who had come through our film lab, and that blew my mind seeing their films. I just had tears in my eyes, because your first film, even if it's great, you're still working out the kinks, right? You're gonna have like little moments where you're learning, and a lot of them went on to play in really wonderful festivals and do really well, so they were great. But seeing the 201 films was just this moment where you're like, you're ready, like send them to Hollywood, like hire these women, they are so ready, finance them, their films were moving, they were beautiful, they were stylish, they were, their characters were compelling, the stories were interesting and dynamic. So so that's our lab, and kind of one of our flagship programs. It's been neat to see it grow over the years.
So for aspiring filmmakers, what kind of qualifications or what would they need to do to be a part of WOCF?
Anyone can
join the lab.
Yeah. So anyone can join the organization. The lab, you apply for it. And so, it's kind of like any fellowship. We go through the applications and, try to figure out who would be the best candidates for it. Some people have had a little experience. Some people are more green. We try to choose a range of like ages and generations. We want to make sure that we have young filmmakers and also women who, maybe they raised their kids and they always wanted to be filmmakers, but they weren't able to go to film school. And, we want to have their voices in the mix as well. So, it just is really kind of like who has the boldest ideas. We tend to really want to support the most distinct voices, and people who are like, you have something to say and we really want to help you launch that. Comedy helps. We get a lot of like really heavy stuff. And so we're always hoping someone submit something light, so it's not just this like uber depressing evening, which I think is probably a lesson for a lot of labs. I think people go in like, sort of picturing their Academy Award winning thing and not realizing that everyone's kind of doing these deep heavy, and that's fine too. Like we want substance and those are beautiful, but if you're applying to a lab, consider something light in comedy, might get you farther. Mm-hmm.
I love that. It sounds like you really nurture creative minds and people who really have a vision for what they want to do as far as filmmaking goes. I love that.
Thanks. Yeah, that's our aim.
So not only are you a part of WOCF, but also with your husband, Demetrius Wren, you have a production company, Two Kids with a Camera. Tell me about Two Kids with a Camera, and how did you two create and build this company?
Well, we started working together fresh out of college. We were making art films together, like just gritty on the streets of New York. And then we went and made a documentary together in South Africa. And that was where the idea for our company came. We just had like all our gear in a backpack and we're roaming in all these different locations that like other film crews and like BBC and stuff couldn't get into, because they just thought we were like two kids with a camera. That was where the idea came from, is that we were kind of disarming, I think. And so, when we got back from that, we had some, clients wanting to hire us, and we needed a proper LLC in order to do that. And we've been building it ever since. And so now we do a lot of branded content for high-end clients and, creative development for live events and things like that. And then we also have our features and shorts, and we have a few really exciting things in development right now. So it's one of those years where we're in pre-production or in the middle of production right now on like 7 things. So, soon it will be an exciting kind of like bam, 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 as they all start to come out. So keep an eye out. We need a website update right now, but yeah, there's some exciting stuff coming.
So, as I mentioned earlier, obviously you do wear a lot of hats. You're involved in a lot of stuff.
Mm.
How how do you do it? It's a lot. Like you seem really, really busy, and you're involved in different organizations and in business. How do you do it? What's your experience like doing
Oh my gosh, so much caffeine, I think.
that?
Just trying to keep up. But I think with most things in life, if you just focus in on it, you can do it. I make a ton of lists. I am such a nerd. I have so many notebooks, and I'm always just like to-do lists and trying to keep track and check it off. But it's one day I can focus on one thing, another, something else. I wish I
One
could
step at a time,
more, but
right?
one step at a time. Thank you. Much more concise way. One step at a time. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
honestly, because that question was kind of for me too, because I'm also a mom. So I just
Yes.
it's a lot, right?
Yeah, you
Like,
sit it in, right?
mhm,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, the caffeine definitely does help.
And schedules keep changing, right? You think like, oh, I'll do it after they go to bed. Okay, well, now they're getting older and their bedtime is later, and oh,
Yeah.
they're waking up at 4 in the morning, so I can't necessarily
And
do
then
more.
there's homework, and then
Yeah.
there's like the
Yeah.
activities too, but then you also have your career, and it's like,
Yeah.
woo.
Really,
Well,
you're
you're
doing it
amazing.
too. Yeah. So go mamas. Yeah.
So, apart from Will Trent and all the other characters that you've been playing, you also voice the character Essie Davin. Is it Essie Davin or Essie David?
Yeah. Yeah.
Essie Davin in the animated series on Netflix, Witcher Sirens of the Deep. So,
Yeah.
how did you become a part of this project, and what's your experience been like working on this series?
Oh, it was so fun. It was so wonderful working on it. And I love this character. She's just delightful. Yeah, it was really, really fun. So I got it because um during the pandemic, again, Zack Snyder is like my fairy godfather, apparently, but he asked me to voice a character in the Army of the Dead Las Vegas anime series. And Wes Gleason was the voice director on that. And Wes reached out to me and like a year or so later and said, hey, I'm casting the Witcher, I'd love to have you audition. And so sent me a couple parts to audition for. And very luckily I was able to work on it, so it was a great gift, just a wonderful surprise. Again, kind of came in the middle of the pandemic when it was very slow, and voiceover was easier because you can be in a studio by yourself. You're not in a big group of people, and so it was such a treat, such a kind of shot in the arm to have some creative output and engage with other artists and things during that time. Mm-hmm.
So how different is it doing voice acting? I mean, obviously there's the aspect of being just in a studio and just voice acting, and then there's, where you're actually on set. But when it comes to the acting craft, how does it change how you approach the way you're going to do your character? Or is it pretty much the same?
I prepare in a similar way, because I'm still analyzing the text and trying to mine it, for whatever details I can, and then craft this character. And, you're not worried about blocking or like physically what you look like or things like that. So there is an emphasis on the voice, right? You want to make sure you're not like getting into the same vocal pattern or whatever. Like I'm trying to keep it as dynamic as possible. But it's really fun in the session, because it's just you and the director just playing. And so you're like, oh, okay, cool, let's try like this. Um, and it's just, I really enjoy the process. It's a very cool experience. Mm.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because they don't actually see your face, do you have to like amplify your emotions, or is it just pretty much how you would do it on screen?
You for it probably depends. I was being filmed. Sometimes they use your expressions to influence the animation a little bit, or like with Army of the Dead, they were basing the character on me. So you want to make sure you are also emoting, or letting them kind of see where you go. It also just naturally happens, if you're being expressive, your body and your voice are probably going to follow. but there is, certainly less pressure on that, or on like consistency between takes, or like you want to vary it up. You're not necessarily trying to like worry about continuity or something like that.
Okay, so you were Caroline, or Caroline. I'm so
Caroline, yeah.
sorry. So in the series Will Trent on ABC. Now, for those of us who've been missing out, tell me more about Will Trent and what do you enjoy most about working on this show?
Well, Will Trent is a fantastic take on the police procedural. So it follows a GBI agent, and he, grew up in the foster care system. And he's kind of like a gritty Sherlock Holmes. He's really great at solving crimes and solving mysteries. And what I love about the show is that they take this police procedural, which is this beloved genre, and they do have the like story of the week and all of those exciting things, but they take the character development of their main characters and the journeys that they're going on just like as far as they can go. And so you feel like you're really watching a character drama when you're watching the sort of main storyline. There's romance, and there's, family trauma, and there's just like all of these character arcs that are fantastic. The writer's room is amazing. Liz Heldon's the showrunner, and Daniel Thompson are just like geniuses. And then like the cast and crew are just delightful. Like it could not be a lovelier set to work on. And so I've just been really grateful to be a part of it.
So tell me more about your character, and like how would you describe her personality, and what do you enjoy most about playing this role?
Caroline plays the office assistant to the head of the GBI. So I'm Sonia Stone's assistant, which is amazing working with her. Caroline, she crosses her T's and dots her I's, and with a little like sass and a little quippy something as she leaves the room usually, which is fun. She's got, she's a little quirky, which has developed over time in a fun way. There's I don't know when this is airing, but a very fun episode for Caroline coming out tonight, where you get to see a kind of silly side of her, which will be cool. Episode 303. And she just, helps keep things moving in the GBI.
So working on Will Trent, where does filming take place, and what's it like working in that type of environment for this series?
We film in Atlanta, in Georgia, and it's been great. It's been wonderful. Just, great crew, great. We film at Eagle Rock Studios, and it's just cool. They've built out the whole GBI and this big warehouse, and it feels magical. It's just cool. It's dreamy. It's really dreamy.
Do you ever get a chance to really like check out the city a little bit when you're not on set and working?
I do. Atlanta is really cool. It's a cool city. It's really just like got its own vibe, and I love it. It feels to me like a really sweet New York, where it's got like a lot of the really creative, like, I shouldn't call it East Coast, because West Coast has all sorts of awesome, really cool things too. But there's like a funkiness, like a real bold fashion sense that you see in New York, and you see that down here as well. Just like a really bold style. And but you've got that Southern hospitality, you get all of that friendliness. It's been very easy to make friends down here, and build out our community. So yeah, it's fun. It's really fun.
I think the food out there is really, really good too.
Good food, great restaurants, great places to hang. Like it's cool. Mm-hmm.
Well, Christina, you really are so amazing. It was such a pleasure speaking with you today.
Pleasure speaking with you. And you're good for my self-esteem. Shoot.
No,
you're amazing. Yeah. Mom and Dad are doing it.
Power.
Exactly. Thanks for taking the time.
So everyone, you can watch more of Christina Wren in the series Will Trent on ABC. Christina, you are so awesome. Thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.